Supreme
Well, if you
Court.
don't think he's bought, why did you say it?
I said
Yes,
that
you said members of the Supreme Court are bought. You're here testifying as a expert for my Democratic friends, and you're saying the members of the Supreme Court are bought?
I said when the American people feel that way, when we have Supreme Court justices
feel that way?
on yachts and in planes of billionaires and not being disclosed.
Anybody
financial
besides Justice Thomas you think is bought on the Supreme Court?
I believe that the court needs to clean
Anybody
up
besides
its act.
Justice Thomas?
I'm not going to go through each
I mean,
justice.
you tweeted it.
I tweeted the way the American people feel.
Did you mean
the
it
way
when
I
you
feel.
tweeted it?
And I stand by that tweet. This Supreme Court of the United States
right.
needs to clean up its
Let me
act.
ask you a couple others here, because you've on September 17, 2020, you tweeted, "It looks like Putin's favorite senator could lose," referring to Senator Lindsey Graham. My aunt's Facebook page has more credibility than you do. I could spend the rest of the day reading your quotes where you make allegations against people and you can't defend them.
Senator John Kennedy just turned a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing into the most uncomfortable, must-watch political moment of the year, and you need to see every single second of it. Professor Richard Painter walked in as the Democrats' golden boy expert witness, primed and ready to unload on the Supreme Court, corruption, ethical violations, the whole corrupt package. What he never saw coming was Senator Kennedy showing up armed with the printed archive of Painter's own tweets. Kennedy didn't yell. He didn't grandstand. He methodically, almost surgically, walked Painter through his most explosive social media hits, one by one. Accusations that Supreme Court justices are bought and paid for, claims that Senator Lindsey Graham is Putin's favorite senator, allegations that a respected University of Chicago professor is a racist, and the wildest bomb, Graham allegedly soliciting cash payments in exchange for his vote on a Supreme Court confirmation. Painter struggled badly, couldn't defend a single one under oath. Let's dive straight in.
Kennedy is next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks.
Senator Kaine.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Chairman, and thanks to all of our witnesses here today. Professor Painter, on May 5th of this year, you put out a tweet. You said, I'm going to quote, "There are some things money can't buy. For everything else, there's the Supreme Court." Would you tell me which members of the Supreme Court you believe are bought?
I was particularly concerned at that point when I posted that tweet.
I
about,
understand, but if you could, I've got really limited time, and I apologize for interrupting. Just tell me which members of the court you are bought.
I did not think that Justice Clarence Thomas should be failing to disclose his trips on a billionaire's
Do you think
yacht
he's
and an
bought?
airplane.
Do you think he's
I
bought?
believe that there is grave risk.
Do you think
that
he's bought?
I said there is grave risk
Do you think he's bought?
to the confidence of the American people in our Supreme
Well, if you
Court.
don't think he's bought, why did you say it?
I said
Yes,
that
you said members of the Supreme Court are bought. You're here testifying as a expert for my Democratic friends, and you're saying the members of the Supreme Court are bought?
I said when the American people feel that way, when we have Supreme Court
Do you
justices
feel that way?
on yachts and in planes of billionaires and not being disclosed.
Anybody
financial
besides Justice Thomas you think is bought on the Supreme Court?
I believe that the court needs to clean
Anybody
up
besides
its act.
Justice Thomas?
I'm not going to go through each
I mean,
justice.
you tweeted it.
I tweeted the way the American people
Did
feel.
you mean
the way
it when
I
you
feel.
tweeted it?
And I stand by that tweet. This Supreme Court of the United States
right.
needs to clean up its
Let me
act.
ask you a couple others here, because you've on September 17, 2020, you tweeted, "It looks like Putin's favorite senator could lose," referring to Senator Lindsey Graham. Could you tell me your evidence for saying that Senator Graham is President Putin's favorite senator?
I don't recall that tweet and the story.
Well, I've got it. It's
tweeted
right
out.
here. It's right here.
I'm happy to look at the tweet, and I'm happy to write you, explain that. I don't know what that has to do with climate change.
Well,
Subject of
it
this
has to
hearing.
do with your credibility. Did
As
you
a-
say, what is your basis for saying that Senator Graham is President Putin's? I mean, have you ever talked to President Putin?
I have not talked to President Putin, and I would be happy to go look at the tweet and look at the story that I tweeted out and what Senator Graham had said in that context. You know,
I
this
mean,
is something
you say all this stuff. For example, you're here as an expert for my Democratic friends, and you say all this stuff. You called on September 16th, 2023, a professor at the University of Chicago, very distinguished professor, Brian Leiter. You called him a racist. Can you explain to me why you think he's a racist?
I remember a series of tweets with him. He's a Marxist who put out a number of statements attacking African Americans and women. And he also was raising money for someone who had called the police on a black student for sleeping in the common room, and now has a wokekkk.com website attacking
That's
me.
fair enough.
So
Fair
I
enough.
will just say one thing that I learned in high school debate, that when you have no argument, you simply change the subject.
All right. On October 15th of 2020, you said Lindsey Graham is soliciting cash payments in return for voting on a Supreme Court nomination. What evidence, that's a pretty bold statement, Professor. What evidence do you have for alleging that Senator Graham was taking cash in return for one of his votes?
I don't recall that specific tweet,
Here it
but
is,
I
right here.
do.
Here
I
it is.
do recall. And I
Do you think he
received-
was taking cash
I-
for one of his votes?
I have received campaign.
Do you think he was taking cash for one of his votes?
I'm answering your question, Senator. I have received solicitations from both political parties.
Do you think Lindsey Graham was taking
hearings
cash for
justice.
one of his votes? It's a simple question,
I have
Professor.
received cash solicitations for cash on my email. And yes, from both political parties in connection with Supreme Court confirmation votes.
Well, I'm out of
It's
time,
wrong.
but let me just say for the record,
It's wrong.
my aunt's Facebook page has more credibility than you do. I could spend the rest of the day reading your quotes where you make allegations against people and you can't defend them.
You've said nothing about climate change. You quoted everybody from a Marxist
Senator
to
Kaine.
all sorts of other people. This has absolutely nothing to do with the topic of the hearing, Senator.
Senator Kaine.
Let's be brutally honest about what just went down in that hearing room. Sometimes, amid all the partisan noise, all the scripted back and forth, all the carefully choreographed Senate theater, something real breaks through. Something genuine. Something that reminds us what actual accountability is supposed to look like in a real democracy. And what Senator John Kennedy delivered that day, that was a straight-up nutfall. He didn't need a fiery speech. He didn't need staff-written monologues. He didn't need to pound the table or perform outrage for the cameras. All he needed was preparation, patience, and a printer. Because Kennedy did what every serious legislator should do before questioning a witness. He read the record. He studied the history. He knew exactly who Professor Painter was, what Painter had said publicly, and precisely how to hold him accountable for every reckless word. That's what genuine Senate oversight looks like. Think about the corner Painter painted himself into. He showed up as an expert whose entire credibility rested on his judgment, his integrity, his ability to make serious, evidence-based claims about ethics at the highest levels of government. Yet when pressed, under oath, to defend his own public statements, he couldn't. He couldn't name which Supreme Court justices he believed were corrupt, beyond Justice Thomas. He couldn't produce one shred of evidence for his claim that Senator Graham was taking cash for votes. He couldn't explain his basis for calling a sitting U.S. Senator a foreign asset of Vladimir Putin. He simply could not back any of it up. Senator Kennedy exposed something far bigger than one professor's Twitter history that day. He exposed a toxic pattern that's infected American political discourse, make explosive, headline-grabbing accusations, generate maximum outrage online, then act shocked or outraged. When someone actually asks you to prove it, that's the real scandal. That's the hypocrisy. Say whatever racks up likes and retweets, then expect nobody will ever hold you accountable. Kennedy didn't let that slide. He stayed calm, he stayed factual, and he made Painter own every single reckless claim. This is why Kennedy is must-watch television. No fluff, no theater, just straight fire, facts over feelings, preparation over posturing, accountability over activism. If moments like this, where a smug expert gets dismantled by nothing more than printed receipts matter to you. Hit subscribe right now. We'll keep delivering these no-holds-barred breakdowns. What do you think? Did Kennedy just deliver the takedown of the year? Drop your take in the comments below. Smash that like if you're tired of zero accountability outrage merchants. Let's keep the truth rolling.